Corazon as we start today's session. Are you there, Grace? Could you please turn your camera on? Okay, guys. So today I will be covering for Mr. Marcelo. You guys already know me. We've had, I think, 2 classes together. And today we're going to continue working on the speaking section. I understand that you guys have already seen or finished seeing question 3 of the speaking section. Am I right? I understand you guys have already practiced and seen the theory of question 3 of the speaking section. Is that correct?
Sorry, I didn't hear very well. Can you repeat, please?
Yeah, so I was told that you guys have already finished working on question 3 of the speaking section, right? You've practiced and you've seen the theory. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. So in that case, today we'll be looking at the next question, which is the fourth and last question of the speaking section. This is task number 4, last one that there is. So we're going to be working on this question. Now, as you probably have already seen, if you've noticed, questions 1 and 2 are pretty much, we'd say, a little casual. You know, they're not as academic as what you have seen in question 3. You probably noticed that question 3 was the first academic question you get in the speaking section. So question 4, to be completely honest, is very similar in that sense. In this task, you'll still be having very academic content. So it'll be content on the sciences, on literature, on history. And but the difference is that for this question specifically, you guys won't have to read anything anymore. So this is similar to question 3, but for this question is everything you need to do is just listen to a lecture. Okay, guys? So let's take a look at what we have for question 2. Sebastian, please, could you read what we have in this first box here? This is the first step.
Okay, listen to a university lecture, 2 minutes approx. After you hear the question, 20 seconds to prepare and 60 seconds to speak.
Okay, Sebastian, thank you so much. So basically, these are the 2 steps that you'll undergo through in this question. The first one is you listen to a university lecture. Does anyone know what a lecture is?
Like a lesson.
Exactly, perfect. It's just a class, right? It's a university class. So you will listen to this class, which lasts approximately 2 minutes. And then you will have a question on your screen. You will hear the question and you get 20 seconds to prepare and 60 seconds to speak, or 1 minute to speak. Okay, guys, so this is the simplest one of them all because it's just listening to the lecture, getting the question, 20 seconds to prepare, 1 minute to speak. Okay, guys, there's nothing else. There's no reading, nothing else you should worry about. Okay, guys, is the format understood? Do you guys have any questions so far?
I have a question. How long the audio is?
Approximately 2 minutes.
And the topic is just academic topics, right? Right?
Yes, we'll be talking about what type of topics you'll get in a little bit, but yes, they're all academic.
Okay, thank you.
We will be allowed to like take notes while listening to the lecture.
Oh yeah, for sure. You guys may and you should take notes while listening to the lecture. Actually, remember that you guys are allowed to take notes throughout the entire test. Whenever you want, you can take notes. You know, even in the reading, listening, speaking, writing, you may take notes whenever you want. And especially when you're listening to content, then you should be taking notes because it's not easy to remember these type of things. Yes. Any other question? All right, guys, perfect. So, speaking of the topics that you'll get in the question, as we were saying, are all academic. But as you probably realized with question 3, you will be having the same topics for question 4 as well. So in the practice test, you'll see that question 4 has 3 main different topics. The first one is psychology. Psychology is mainly related to our brain, how we learn, how we experience certain things, how we process pain, how we process emotions, how we interact with each other. So it's all about the way that we connect, the way that our brain works. Right? Then you have biology. Now, biology may be a little bit more technical, but it's never going to be like hardcore biology either. What you see in biology is mainly animals and plants. So you don't have to worry about like seeing human biology or human anatomy or anything like that. It's just animals and plants. How they interact, they are organized, their life processes, how they, I don't know, form relationships or bonds between each other, their evolution, how they have evolved and how they have adapted to certain changes, to climate changes, to like extinction of some animals. So when you have biology, it's all about animals and plants, okay? Everything related to them, especially adaptations, to be honest. I have seen a lot that are about adaptations. And then you have business as the number 3. So business is usually related to marketing, advertisement. Sometimes you have a little of like different diversifying, like how growing a business. So these are not very tough things, I'd say either. You won't have anything like economics or anything. It's just, business content. So marketing, advertisement, sometimes you have pricing, strategies to attract consumers, to attract customers, things like that. And finally, obviously not everything is going to be 100% sure. So there's a small percentage, there's a small chance that you'll get something entirely different. So you may have something like art, history, sociology, geology, literature, but this is very uncommon. So to be quite honest, I do not think that you guys will be getting one of these. It's very uncommon. Most of the time it'll be psychology, biology, and business. Okay, guys? Now you may be wondering, so how is this important? Like, why do I care what topics I'll have? To be honest, the number 1 thing that you should be getting out of this is expanding your vocabulary. Remember that these are academic topics, so you need to have academic vocabulary. So, for example, if you guys want to like expand your vocabulary on psychology, okay, you want to practice listening and expanding vocabulary at the same time. So, for example, for psychology, watching these TED Talks, TED Education Talks, those are great for psychology vocabulary. So if you can listen to those TED Talks, I think that you have podcasts now. Everything that is on psychology topics will help you because you will need some vocabulary. You need to learn words like behavior or, I don't know, like bias, tendency, those type of words that you'll hear when talking about psychology. For biology, to be honest, what really helps is watching National Geographic videos. If you guys watch National Geographic videos, you'll learn a lot of new vocabulary related to animals and plants, and that will help you big time because you need some vocabulary, right? You need to speak properly about biology topics. If you're talking about animals, things like predator, prey, chemicals, things like that. Some names of animals, some names of plants. And finally, for business, I mean, there's so much material available for business. You have plenty of podcasts right now on Spotify or any other platform, websites. Business English, I think, is one of the biggest things that are trending nowadays. So I'm pretty sure you guys will be able to find a lot of business material for listening, podcast mainly. So that's what I really highly recommend that you do. And that will help you not only practice your listening skills, but also learn and expand your vocabulary on these areas. okay? Because it is important so that you're not lost when you're presented to this type of material, and so that you get used to talking about these topics. Okay, guys? So that's one recommendation I can give you. I don't know if you have any questions so far. Everything clear?
I think everything clear.
Okay, Sebastian, thanks. So, what else? Now, another thing, I mean, I think I said this before, I don't know if I said it to you guys, but the TOEFL test is really predictable. We know what to expect. You know, we already know what to expect on the topics, so you already know how to get prepared for the vocabulary that you'll see. And you also know what to expect from the structure of the lecture itself. And believe me, understanding the structure of the lecture will help you a lot, because when you know what things or what elements will be mentioned in this lecture that you're going to hear, you're going to be actively looking for that information, right? So you're not lost anymore. You're looking for specific things while you're listening. So here in this question, this is the structure that you'll see. You will first have an introduction. So in the introduction, you will have the topic of the lecture in general. So let's say that this lecture is about pollution. So during this introduction, which is approximately, I don't know, 30, 40 seconds sometimes, the professor, remember that university teachers are called professors, right? So we're going to refer to the speaker as a professor. So the professor will be talking about the topic in general. Let's say pollution is this and this and that and whatever. You have the topic in the introduction. And then this topic is always going to be broken down into two different subtopics. Okay, so what do I mean by two different subtopics? Many things that you can have here. For example, you can have two causes of pollution, two effects of pollution, two definitions of the word pollution, two reasons why pollution, I don't know, anything that is two subdivisions of the topic. Okay, guys? And each subtopic will contain its own example. For example, if we come back to the example of pollution, let's say the topic is pollution. Subtopic one will be, let's say, one type of pollution. Let's say it is air contamination. And the example will be an example of, let's say, one city where the air is really polluted. So let's say Santa Cruz de la Sierra. And then you have subtopic two, which is going to be another type of pollution, let's say water contamination. And you'll have another example here, so probably the name of a river, a lake, whatever. Okay, guys? That is the structure. I don't want you to worry too much right now. We will see this with an example, but I just want you to be aware of what you're expecting when you're listening to this lecture. The introduction first, the two subtopics, and the two examples. Okay, guys? Does that make sense? Do you have any questions at all? Okay, guys. So please, I'm gonna ask you all to turn your cameras on. I see that so many people are not. I don't know if you guys are there, first of all. So Lucia, Boris, we have two Boris. Kayla, could you guys please turn your cameras on? David. You guys there? David, are you there? Okay, guys. Well. Okay, guys. So this is the structure, right? You have an introduction, two subtopics, and two examples. Is that okay so far? Do you have any questions I was saying here? Okay, guys. So you'll understand better when you listen to the exam. Okay, we're going to listen to this lecture, an example of the lecture. I want you guys to please get ready to take notes. Remember what you're looking for, right? The topic, 2 subtopics, and 2 examples. So listen carefully and you may take notes. I really do not recommend that you take a lot of notes. To be honest, if you have, let's say, 1 sentence for each part of the structure of the lecture, that's awesome and that's enough. So let's say 1 sentence for the introduction, 1 sentence for the first subtopic, 1 sentence for the example, another one for the second subtopic, and another one for the second example. That's, to be honest, all you need. Okay, guys? So do not take many notes. Even if you hear a lot, you need to be able to summarize them. Let's listen to the lecture now.
Listen to part of a lecture in a business class.
If a consumer has to choose between 2 products, what determines the choice? Assume that someone, a purchaser, is choosing between 2 products that cost the same, okay? If people have a choice between 2 identically priced products, which one will they choose? They choose the one they think is of higher quality, of course. But what does it mean for a product to be a high-quality product? Well, business analysts usually speak of 2 major factors of quality. One factor is reliability, and the other is what we call features. So reliability. What's reliability? Well, a product is reliable if it works the way we expect it to work, if it can go a reasonable amount of time without needing repairs. If a product, a car for example, doesn't work the way it should and needs repairs too soon, we say it's unreliable. So product reliability means basically the absence of defects or problems that you weren't expecting. It used to be that when people thought about product quality, they thought mainly about reliability. Today, it's different. People do still care about reliability, don't get me wrong. It's just that manufacturing standards are now so high that, we'll take cars for example, today. Today's cars are very reliable. So reliability is important, but it's not going to be the deciding factor. So if reliability isn't the deciding factor anymore, what is? Features. All those extras, the things a product has that aren't really necessary, but that make it easier to use or that make it cool. For example, new cars today are loaded with features like electric windows, sunroofs, air conditioning, stereos, and so forth. When people are comparing products today, they look at features because reliability is pretty much equal across the board. And that's why manufacturers include so many features in their products.
Using points and examples from the lecture, explain the 2 major factors of product quality and how their role in consumer decision-making has changed.
Okay, guys. So that was our lecture. All right, we're going to talk about the lecture. First of all, could anybody tell me what it was about? What was this lecture about?
It was about the choices that humans take when they want to buy something.
Okay, good. Let's see how we can rephrase your vocabulary. It's about the choices that consumers make, not humans, when they want to buy what?
Any product.
Exactly, when they want to buy a product, right? Or the choices that consumers make when they want to purchase a product, for example. So that is what I meant that is exactly what I meant when I was telling you to expand your vocabulary on these areas, right? Business vocabulary will be useful for this question, for example. Psychology will be useful for other questions. Okay, but yes, perfect. Thank you so much. Another tip that I can give you guys, in the question itself, you find the topic. And this is amazing because it's always there. The question is always the same. It says, using points and examples from the lecture, explain, and then you have the topic. It says the two major factors of product quality. To be honest, I really recommend that you guys read the question, don't skip it. A lot of students, like, they already know what the question is gonna look like, so they just don't read it at all. But I do recommend that you read this part, because this can help you later when you're speaking to summarize and compress better your ideas. You know, if I ask you, what is the lecture about? It's about the choices that consumers make when buying a product, specifically the two major factors that influence that choice, right? Perfect. Now, let's try to break that down. Hang on a sec. All right, so we're saying it's about the two major of product quality. Can anybody tell me what the first factor was? What was the first topic? It is?
Reliability.
Exactly. Thank you so much. Reliability. And I remember we have a short definition of what reliability is. Could anybody tell me what it is?
Creo que era confiable.
Exactly, yes. When something is confiable, reliable. In English, how could you say it?
Trustworthy.
I'm sorry? Okay.
It could be like trustworthy.
Okay, yes. When a product is trustworthy, you can trust that it will work well. Exactly, we can say that. Trustworthy. You can trust that it will work well, right? Anyone else wants to say something about what reliability is? I think the professor says something about when it works the way that you expect it to work, right? When it doesn't have any defects, then that is a reliable product. Now, we had an example for that. Remember, as we said in the beginning, that the structure is topic, subtopic 1, example 1, subtopic 2, example 2. So what was the example we had for reliability? It is?
I believe it was cars. I think the professor mentions initially the manufacturing sector, but then she changes the topic to cars.
Yes. Because it was the manufacturing of cars, right? Anyone else? Anything else? Okay, so I remember the professor says that when is a car reliable? She explains that. When is a car said to be reliable?
Maybe because it works as expected, meaning that no matter the difference between the brands, the car has to work perfectly.
Exactly. Perfect. So yes, no matter what brand your car is, it should work the way that it has to work, right? So yes, exactly. Okay, and I remember the professor also says that like reliability is pretty much the same nowadays, right? Every product is reliable. It's pretty much reliable. Sebastian?
Sorry, it was a mistake.
Okay, sure. Hey guys, what about the second subtopic? What was the second factor? Sebastian?
Okay, the second part, it was about the features that the product may have.
All right, and what are features?
The features are the extras or the extras that the product have, and that extras make it easier to use or make it cool.
Exactly. Perfect. So yes, those extra things that a product has, extra characteristics that make it easier to use or make it cooler. Okay, and what about the second example?
It also mentions cars, like the characteristics of a car, like air condition and something like that.
All right, air conditioning. Anybody remembers anything else?
I think it was about textile. Not a textile. Una textilera. They,
Mm,
he says that clothes are better when they have extras like I don't know symbols that make it cooler.
not really. No, you misinterpreted that. I mean, she does say that products are better when they have extra features, but she was talking about cars. Cars. And she
Okay.
was mentioned that, yeah. So air conditioning, there were other features of cars as well. What else?
A sunroof, I believe.
Yeah, sunroof. I think electric windows, stereos. Those are some examples. Okay, guys, and with the topic we said that are the two main factors of quality. So this is sort of how your notes should look like. You shouldn't have too much information. You should have just a few words per element. Yeah, because you won't have time to say much, but you should say a little bit of it. Okay, guys? Do you have any questions so far? Does everyone understand the structure of this lecture? Okay, guys, great. So let's keep that in mind. Now, I mean, after listening to the lecture, you hear the question, it's on your screen. The question contains the topic as we said, so you should read it. Then you get 20 seconds to prepare your response, which is not much, but it is a good help. You can organize your notes, you can practice, you can rehearse. I mean, you can eliminate a few ideas, you can work on your introduction. And then you get 1 minute to answer this question. Now, what is the question saying? The question is basically telling you, use the points and the examples that the professor mentions to explain the topic. That is the question, and that's what we're going to do. Now, I want you all to please go to our website and download the template for the fourth question. It's, as usual, on our website. I think it's the third section, Apoyo Académico. If you scroll down, almost at the bottom of the page should be the scripts, right? The templates. So yes, you scroll down and it's here, right? Guiones TOEFL. You should be downloading the fourth one for question 4. Okay, guys, do you all get it? I mean, I'm going to send you the link just in case. Okay, guys. So please open the document. You should be seeing this. Okay, guys. So remember that you have 1 minute or 60 seconds. The numbers that you gotta remember are 48, 36, 24, and 12. So basically, all of them are I mean, every 12 seconds you have to start a new idea, right? 12, 24, 36, 48. So every 12 seconds. Now, what can you do in 12 seconds? Most of the time, you'll only be able to have one sentence here because 12 seconds is a fair amount of time to, to say one sentence. Okay, guys? So what you're going to do is you're going to organize the information based on the structure we talked about. For example, starting here, you're going to say, according to the lecture, de acuerdo a el lecture, de acuerdo a la clase, and then you mention something related to the introduction, which was in the question, right? According to the lecture, there are two main factors of product quality. And you can start with the first, right? The first one is reliability, which is the absence of defects in a product. And then you move on to the example. You say, as a matter of fact, and then you can have, this was lecture, and the first subtopic, right? Subtopic 1. And then you say, as a matter of fact, and here you have to explain the first example, example 1. So as a matter of fact, a car will be reliable when it works the way it should, when it doesn't have any defects. And that's it, that's your first example. And then you need to go to the second subtopic. So when you're 36 seconds left, you will say indeed, and then you mention the second subtopic. So indeed, let's say another factor of product quality is features, right? You're talking about the second subtopic. Features are all of those extra characteristics that a product has. And then you move on to the example, to the second example, example number 2. And you say verily, and you basically explain the example, right? Cars have air conditioning, stereos, electric windows as features. And then finally, you have to have a short conclusion, and you can say when you're 12 seconds left, all in all, and then you will finish off or wrap everything by having a summary of everything you said so far. All in all, these are the two main factors that influence a consumer's choice when deciding what product to buy, given that both of them have the same price, for example. So this should be your conclusion, where you summarize everything that you said so far. Okay, guys? I'm going to write it down so that you can actually see it. So according to the lecture, you mentioned the introduction. I'm going to do it with a different color. Introduction, which is basically the topic from the question, plus the first subtopic. Okay? That's what you have here. Then you have as a matter of fact, and you mention the first example. Example number 1. Then you have indeed, and you mention the second subtopic. Right? Features. And then you have verily and your second example. And finally, a short conclusion where you summarize everything. Okay, guys? Now, I know that it looks a little complicated to deal with the timing, but it's just practicing. You'll see that when you practice, you'll get used to these timings and you'll be able to have 1 or 2 sentences in each part. As long as you cover those 4 elements, you're fine. You're good to go. Okay, guys? Hi, Kayla. Could you please turn your camera on? All right. Thank you so much. And that's it. That is basically what you gotta do for question 4 of the speaking section. Any questions so far? Does this make sense? Okay, guys, so I'll walk you through it. I'll give you guys a sample response. So you get to see how I manage my time, what things or what information I include, and so forth. Hi, Boris, welcome back. Could you please turn your camera on? Okay, thank you so much. Okay, guys. So I'm gonna try to do it. Meaning what we talked about here, the timings that we have. So let's see, here's the time. According to the lecture, there are two main factors that influence product quality of a product. The first one is reliability, which is the absence of defects in a product or when it works the way it should. As a matter of fact, a car is said to be reliable when it works the way it should, and it doesn't need to be repaired too soon after buying the car. Reliability used to be the main factor. Indeed, the other factor is features, which are all those extra characteristics a product has that make it easier to use or that make it cooler or more appealing for the consumer. Verily, a car can have air conditioning, a stereo, sunroofs, electric windows, and all of these will be the features that manufacturers are now adding to the cars to make them more competitive. All in all, these are the two main factors that a consumer considers when choosing a product, given that two of them cost the same, and they influence quality. Right? So it's up to you guys. At least you should have one sentence after each transition word. Okay, guys, but if you're able to fit more than one, that's fine. But you should really constantly be looking at the timer to measure your time and to go according to how many seconds you have left. Okay, guys? Try to memorize this according to the lecture. As a matter of fact, indeed, verily, all in all. Okay, guys? So, Iris, tell me.
Sorry, do we have a visible timer when we do the exam, or do we have to control our time by ourselves?
Oh no, you do have the timer right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, everything is timed, right? Listening, reading, speaking, writing sections, all of them are timed. And you can see the timer throughout throughout the entire test pretty much. In the listening and reading, you have the options of hiding the timer, which I don't recommend you do. You need to see how much time you have left. But in the speaking section, it'll be there, exactly the way that we did. Yes,
Thank you.
sure. Any other question?
I have a question, but not about the question for do you know how many points each question is worth?
From
Or
the
not?
speaking.
Yeah, for the speaking.
Okay. So the way that it works is a little bit different than, let's say, reading and listening. For the speaking section, each question 1, 2, 3, and 4, is scored from a scale of 1 to 5. So you can get, let's say, a level 3 response, a level 4 response, or a level 5 response, which would be like the top score that you can get. So let's say in question 1, you have let's say, a 3. Question 2 is a 5. Question 4, you get, I don't know, let's say a 4. And question 3, you get a 4. And in question 4, you get a 5 again. Then you get the average of these 4 scores. So 3 plus 5 plus 4 plus 5, that would be 10, 17. And your final score, your average, would be 17 divided into 4, right? Which should be about 4.1 or 4.2, I guess. Based on this, they will convert this is called the raw score, right? Como el puntaje bruto, the raw score. Based on this, they will convert this raw score into your final speaking score, which is going to be, let's say, a 4.2 would be about 23, kind of, more or less. You know, so if you get a 5, let's say that could be from 25 to 30. If you get a 4, that should be from 20 to 25. So a 5.2 should be about that 23, let's say. So to be honest, this is a little bit, this is not so revealed that ETS doesn't give much information about specifically how they can make the conversion, but this is what is most known. Okay, it's not like you get a direct score for each question. They convert your raw scores into your scaled scores or your final scores, which is going to be on a scale from 1 to 30, right? Being 30 the top score that you can get. Okay, guys? So this is kind of how they,
Thank you.
and that's why, I don't know if you guys checked the document that I was telling you about. If you search for speaking rubrics, TOEFL, then you will see how it is. They don't actually like give you 25 to 30, right? They give you the level of your response. So a level 3 response should have these, let's say. A level 2 response should have these. So this is how they evaluate your scores, right? In the integrated speaking, which are questions 2, 3, and 4, and in the independent speaking. You can check this out and see kind of what they're looking for to get all of these raw scores. And finally, they will convert it to your final score. Okay, guys, I'll send this document again. Any other question? Okay, guys, good. So let's practice a little bit. I don't think there's anything else to be said. We have done business. Why don't we do one that is psychology? Somebody can try, or if you want, we can do it together. And if we still have time, we can do another biology one so that we get to see the 3 of them. Okay, guys? So let's do that.
Sorry, teacher. I have a little question. In the case of TOEFL, sometimes to have a good score, for example, it's better to use many sentences, to use many words, or but not clear, not always clear, or it's better to have more simple but at least really clear and be fluent. I mean, which kind of tip could you recommend in that case? Because sometimes when a big template and we don't have too much time, so sometimes we can be nervous and it's not easy to be so fluent, but we can be more simple, and if it's good, or we have to do to put all our effort to do that, or which kind of tip could you recommend in that case?
Okay, so I definitely say clarity, and there's something that's called, I think we talked about this last class. Intelligibility, which basically means the person who's listening to you should put no effort into understand what you're saying. So it's always clarity over, let's say, having a very complicated and complex response with complex grammar and complex vocabulary. It's better to sound natural than to try to force yourself to use, let's say, words or grammar structures that you don't really know how to use, you're not familiar with. Because if you try to force yourself, let's say, to use grammar, you want to show that you have like an advanced grammar. So you want to use the third conditional and the past perfect. But if you really don't know how to use it, then you're more likely going to make mistakes. And those mistakes will definitely lower your score. So if you have to force yourself to do something that you're not comfortable with, that you're not familiar with, then it's better to go with something simpler, but make it more clear, make it easier to understand, and have a better delivery, have less or fewer grammar mistakes, and use more appropriate vocabulary. So I wouldn't suggest that you guys force yourself to do something you're not comfortable with, right? So it's better to prepare, to try to see what you guys can do, what's your limit, depending obviously on how much time you have before you take the test. If you have, let's say, 3 months, then you have a lot of time preparation, so you can do a lot more things. But if you're taking the test, let's say next month, then it's better to go with simpler things. So yeah, don't yourself to use complex grammar or vocabulary if you're not comfortable doing that. Guys, any other questions? Okay. Then let's do a practice of psychology. Let's see. Looking for. All right. So I'm going to play the lecture. Please pay attention and take notes. Let's hear it.
Why do we do the things we do? What drives us to participate in certain activities, to buy a certain car, or even to choose a certain career? In other words, what motivates us to do what we do? Well, in studies of motivation, psychologists distinguish between two very different types. Our reasons for doing something, our motivations, can be extrinsic. In other words, based on some kind of external reward, like praise or money. Or they can be intrinsic, meaning we engage in the activity because it pleases us internally. Both create strong forces that lead us to behave in certain ways. However, intrinsic motivation is generally considered to be more long-lasting than the other. As I said, extrinsic motivation is external. It's the desire to behave in a certain way in order to obtain some kind of external reward. A child, for example, who regularly does small jobs around the house, does them not because she enjoys taking out the garbage or doing the dishes, but because she knows if she does these things, she'll be given a small amount of money for doing them. But how motivated would the child be to continue doing the work if her parents suddenly stopped giving her money for it? With intrinsic or internal motivation, we want to do something because we enjoy it or get a sense of accomplishment from it. Most people who are internally motivated get pleasure from the activity, so they just feel good about doing it. For example, I go to the gym several times a week. I don't go because I'm training for a marathon or anything. I just enjoy it. I have more energy after I exercise, and I know it's good for my health, so it makes me feel good about myself. And that's what's kept me going there for the past 5 years.
Okay, the question says, using points and examples from the talk, explain the two types of motivation. Now I'll give you guys 20 seconds to prepare your responses. We'll see if somebody wants to try, or if not, we'll do it together. Okay, guys. So is there anyone who'd like to try by any chance?
I could try.
Okay, perfect. Do you want me to show you the template?
No, don't worry. I already have it.
Okay, perfect. So go ahead, Sebastian, please.
Okay. According to the lecture, we have two kind of motivations that we choose when we act. The first one is intrinsic motivation. Indeed, this is an external motivation when someone wants to win something or or wants to win an external reward. Verily, this is one of the most common motivations when we talk about work. The second one is internal motivation. This internal motivation it's when we enjoy the activity that we are doing because we are feeling good about it. All in all, these two motivations are the principal. Sorry, I didn't know what to say.
Okay, good. Remember the main instead of the principal. Right, the main. Okay. It was good. It was actually really good. First of all, talking about the content of your response, you demonstrate a great in-depth understanding of the lecture, of the topic, the two subtopics. What I would add to the content is maybe you were missing the examples. So try to perhaps summarize a little bit more the definition. Sometimes you don't have to explain them too much, right? You say extrinsic motivation is when we do something because we are looking for an external reward. With that definition, you're okay, but go with so I don't know what according to the template, right? You're here. As a matter of fact, a child does household tasks because she wants to get money from it, let's say, right? The example. So that is the only thing I'd add in terms of content. Don't forget about the examples, they are important. Then your grammar was good, to be honest. I don't think I have any comments on that. Your vocabulary was appropriate as well, except for some details, right, like the main principle. Timing, you were just missing some extra seconds, but you could have finished sooner if you had respected these, right? 24:12. So make sure that you're constantly looking at the clock. But it was an excellent first try, Sebastian. To be your first time, it was really good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, for sure. Is there anyone else who would like to try this one? Or maybe let's do another one so that you guys get to see. Let's try to do a biology one, okay? So that you see this as well. Okay, we're gonna do this. Okay, so please take notes and pay attention.
Listen to part of a lecture in a psychology class.
Okay, we generally assume that babies can feel only very basic emotions like...
I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong one. This isn't biology. Okay, let's do this one.
Now listen to part of a lecture in a biology class.
Now, many sea animals, in order to hide from predators, have, over time, developed different kinds of camouflage to help them blend in with their environment and avoid detection by predators. Picture the surface of the seafloor. It's as varied as the land we live on. It's got peaks and valleys, vegetation, rocky areas, and some sea animals have developed permanent colors or shapes to resemble these environmental features. This camouflage helps disguise them from predators by enabling them to blend into a specific part of the sea. For instance, take a kind of fish like the leafy sea dragon. Well, the name says it all. It resembles a small green dragon with leaf-like protrusions sticking out like arms. And because of its color and shape, it blends in extremely well with green sea plants. So when the leafy sea dragon is swimming through these plants, predators have trouble seeing it. But when it enters other environments without these green plants, its camouflage doesn't work anymore. Now, other sea animals are difficult to spot anywhere in the sea because their type of camouflage enables them to change color. Take the cuttlefish, a fish that's closely related to the squid and octopus. Unlike leafy sea dragons, Cuttlefish have not developed any particular shape to hide from predators, but they have a lot more mobility because their camouflage allows them to blend into any environment. Because cuttlefish have shifting pigments that allow them to change color in a matter of seconds, and so they can almost instantaneously match the color of their surroundings. If they're swimming by green sea plants, they'll turn green, and if they're swimming over the brown seafloor, they'll turn brown.
Okay. Okay, guys. So now the question says, using the examples of the leafy sea dragon and the cuttlefish, describe two kinds of camouflage and the benefits they provide. Okay, pay attention and try and see how the question is already giving you so many hints. You already have what the two examples were, right? The leafy sea dragon was the first example, and the cuttlefish was the second example. And you have the topic, the two kinds of camouflage and the benefits they provide. All right, so you just need to remember what the two types of camouflage were, but because you already have the examples. So now you'll have 20 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay, guys. Does anyone want to try? Perhaps we can do it together. Okay, so we say, let's come back to the template. Okay, first, the top, right? According to the lecture, there are two main types of camouflage, and they provide specific benefits. The first type, do you guys remember what the first type of camouflage was?
I'm not sure, but I think is using the environment to protect.
Exactly, yes. So first, some animals blend in into the environment. Blend in means like they fade into the environment, se mezclan, blend in, se ocultan in the environment. And how do they do this? By developing certain adaptations in terms of color and shape, right? So the first type of camouflage was when the animals have developed the specific colors and specific shapes that allow them to blend in into its environment, right? As a matter of fact, we have the first example, which is already in the question, right? The leafy sea dragon. So how is the leafy sea dragon? What does this animal do, and how is it related to the topic? Does anyone remember? It is?
The leafy sea dragon is shaped like a leaf. In that way, it blends into the seafloor because it has similar plants that it can blend in with. I don't know.
Exactly. Yes. Perfect. Thank you, Iris. So yeah, it's just an example of what we said so far. So the leafy sea dragon, like the name suggests, looks like a leaf, and it's green, so it can perfectly well hide among leaves on the seafloor. Now we have indeed the second subtopic, which was the second type of camouflage. What was the second type?
Perhaps the shift in color.
Exactly. So indeed, other sea animals have the ability of shifting colors depending on where they're in, right? Where they're at. Verily, we have the example of the cuttlefish. So what's the example about? What does the cuttlefish do? It is?
The cuttlefish doesn't have any particular shape, but it has a lot of mobility thanks to its shifting pigments.
Exactly. So yes, the cuttlefish has these shifting pigments that allow it to hide under whatever environment it's in. So if the cuttlefish is, let's say, swimming around leaves, then it'll turn green, right? And you'll be able to hide there. And if it's, let's say, on a more rocky part of the ocean, then it'll turn brown, perhaps. So yes, it can shift colors. And then we have the conclusion, right? All in all, these are the two, and we repeat what we said in the introduction. These are one of the two, or these are two of the main types of camouflage that you can find in sea animals, and they provide, they provide great benefits in order or for their survival, for example. Depending on how much time you have left, right? You can accommodate your conclusion. And that's pretty much it, right? And now you put it all together and you have your response. Does anyone want to do that? Try putting everything together? Maybe Edie, do you want to try? I feel like you're prepared.
Okay, I'd like to do it.
Perfect. So you may start speaking now.
Okay, so according to the lecture, there are mainly two types of camouflage that the sea animals can have. Firstly, the blending type is when the animal can, because of its shape, like it's mentioned by the leafy sea dragon, can blend in the seafloor. The second type is the camouflage or the change in the pigments. As an example, the cuttlefish that can have mobility because of its shifting pigments. And now I realize I jumped all over the script. I get a little nervous when I'm speaking, but I don't know.
Okay, it wasn't bad. Yes, I mean, you weren't using the script or the template, but it was okay. It was fine. I mean, the important thing at the end is that you mentioned both topics, both examples. It'll be better if you can do it with a template because somehow it gives it a more defined structure, right? It gives your response a more defined structure. It separates better like the elements we talked about, so topics and examples. And it's more, and it gives more vocabulary as well. So it's just a matter of practicing with the template, trying to memorize it at first, and then there'll come a time when you don't need it. You don't need to be constantly looking at it anymore. It'll come more natural. But it was good. I mean, I think you will be able to achieve a really good score in speaking because you have the content, you have the delivery. It's just working a little bit on the structure, and it will be perfect. Okay, guys. So, what do you think now? Do you have any questions before we go about question 4 of the speaking section? Remember, this is the last question of the speaking. So, any questions, comments? Okay, guys. So don't worry about it if you didn't have time to practice today. Remember, tomorrow's your practice session with Mr. Marcelo, and you'll probably be practicing with a few different questions of this task. Okay, guys. Before you go, though, please don't forget today's daily survey, which should be on your screens. I'm sending it now. I'd really appreciate it if you could answer those 3 questions for me before you go. And, well, I don't know when I'll be seeing you guys, but hopefully soon. Okay, guys, so thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye, take care.
You, bye-bye.